I used to be afraid of speaking in court too. And I got over that with some practice and reframing. A different way of looking at that is feeling nervous is natural, but it shows I care about doing a good job. I can use that nervous energy to prepare thoroughly and perform well. And that's exactly what I experienced every time, every trial I did, every time when I did an opening statement, I felt nervous. But I learned that it didn't make my opening less effective. So many times I felt so nervous, and my clients would say, "That was amazing. That was really good." And I realized that nervousness was just something to experience and would help me focus and really present myself. Reframing fear as a side of motivation rather than an obstacle can transform that nervous energy into productive preparation.
Welcome to the Free Lawyer Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Miles. The Free Lawyer Podcast is designed for the lawyer, entrepreneur, or professional who is in some way unfulfilled, stressed, or stuck and is looking for something better. We will discuss various blocks that limit us from achieving the personal freedom that we all desire but have not yet fully experienced. And we will give actionable steps to free yourself from them. Are you looking to achieve a new level of success? If so, this podcast is for you.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Free Lawyer. And this podcast is designed for lawyers and professionals who just are struggling a little bit. You're not getting the joy and satisfaction, fulfillment out of your practice as you wish. I'm Gary Miles. I'm your host. And for those of you who don't know, I've been practicing law for 45 years, almost 46. I've seen it all. I've done a lot right, and I've done many, many things wrong, and I've learned from them. And I realized a couple of years ago, I was passionate about helping lawyers be as successful as they can. I was tired of being in conflict and competing with lawyers, and I wanted to help and support you. So that's why I started this podcast. And Mondays, I have solo episodes, and Thursdays, I have a guest on. So if you like what you hear today, please follow and subscribe. And you can also check me out on YouTube. And for those of you who listen to me regularly, thank you so much. Feel free to share the podcast with a friend of yours. And if you're open to it, leave me a rating and review. That helps me get seen by more people. So today is part 2 of our podcast on reframing our fears. And last week we introduced the topic and we talked about the fears that we may encounter as lawyers. And I love this quote from Henry Ford. One of the greatest discovery a man makes, one of his great surprises, is to find he can do what he was afraid he couldn't do. And so often we suffer from fear in our practice. We worry how our trial will turn out, or how the jury will receive our opening statement, or worry about if we made some mistake, worry about how that meeting with their managing partner will turn out. And fear can really paralyze us. And I talked last week about some of the different fears that we have: fear of failing, fear of being judged by others, being uncertain, fear of public speaking, standing up in front of the jury or the court. I know my first appellate argument, I was so scared to stand before their judges. They were just people like I was, but I was scared to death. And that fear affects us in so many ways. It erodes our confidence. It clouds our judgment. It causes anxiety and stress, and sometimes leads to procrastination, where when we're afraid of doing something, we put it aside, we put it behind us. And fear, if we don't address it, can really undermine our career satisfaction. And last week, I introduced the topic of cognitive reframing, which is a technique that changes how you perceive and interpret an event or an experience. And the goal is to shift your perspective from a negative or limiting view to a more positive or more empowering one. And by altering your cognitive framework, you can reduce stress, enhance your problem-solving abilities, and improve your mental well-being. So what is cognitive reframing and how does it work? Well, there are essentially 3 steps to it. The first is to identify your negative thoughts, What is it you're thinking about the event that causes you such stress? The second is to challenge those negative thoughts. Is that thought true? What evidence supports it? What evidence contradicts it? And then to replace that challenging negative thought with a more balanced, a more constructive, a more helpful thought. That doesn't mean that we ignore the reality of a difficult situation, but we view them in a way that's more realistic and less detrimental to our mental state. And we talked about all the many benefits of reframing those negative thoughts. We reduce our anxiety and stress. We improve our emotional resilience. Our problem solving gets better. We make better decisions. We have more confidence, better relationships with our clients, better mental health, and most importantly, job satisfaction and fulfillment. And that's what so many of us are lacking. We get to a point where we hate doing what we do. So today we're going to talk about how we can use the tool of reframing to change your perspective and to change your response to fear. Cognitive reframing, in essence, takes control of your mental narrative, and it transforms those negative thoughts instead into a tool for growth and resilience. And it really is a powerful strategy for you to overcome fear, enhance your performance, and achieve greater satisfaction, fulfillment, and freedom in your career. So here are some tactics for how reframing can help you. The first is you can shift from catastrophic thinking to balanced thinking. And for me, I do a lot of what I call awfulizing. I immediately take something that might happen in the future and just imagine the worst possible result. And I've talked to lawyers who struggle with this. They're afraid they'll get sued for malpractice and their career will come to an end. So an example of this would be, if I lose this case, it will ruin my career. And trust me, I was a trial lawyer in the beginning. I used to have those thoughts. And when you walk into the courtroom, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. And I was worried it would ruin my career. But a way to reframe that thought is, losing this case might be disappointing, but it certainly won't ruin my career. I've faced setbacks before, and I've learned from them. See, that reframing shifts our thoughts from the fear of catastrophic outcomes, and it helps you see the situation in a more balanced light. Of course, losing the case still is losing the case, and it's disappointing, but it certainly won't ruin your career. And it is only a setback you can learn from. See, that allows you to approach your case or trial with a calmer, more focused mindset, and that will improve your performance. A second reframing technique is to turn fear into motivation. So, for example, I could think, I'm terrified of speaking in court because I might make a mistake. And I used to be afraid of speaking in court too. And I got over that with some practice and reframing. A different way of looking at that is feeling nervous is natural, but it shows I care about doing a good job. I can use that nervous energy to prepare thoroughly and perform well. And that's exactly what I experienced every time, every trial I did, every time when I did an opening statement, I felt nervous. But I learned that it didn't make my opening less effective. So many times I felt so nervous, and my clients would say, that was amazing, that was really good. And I realized that nervousness was just something to experience and would help me focus and really present myself. Reframing fear as a sign of motivation rather than an obstacle can transform that nervous energy into productive preparation. And that positive spin on fear will lead to greater confidence, preparation, readiness. Another example of reframing is to view a challenge as a learning opportunity. So you might think, I'm afraid of taking on this difficult case because I might not know enough to handle it well. A reframed thought might be, this challenging case is an opportunity to learn and grow as a lawyer. Every case, especially the tough ones, teaches me something new. And I'll give you an example. 3 or 4 years ago, I was asked by a law school classmate to try a case for mold damage to property. I knew nothing about mold. I knew nothing about mold experts. And I was a little, afraid of doing it. I thought I didn't know enough to handle it well. I dove into it. I learned the field. I learned how to do it. And we had simply an amazing result. It was 6 or 7 times what our settlement demand was. And since then, we've become known in the state of Maryland for handling mold law cases because of that experience. That challenging case taught me something new. It taught me about a field I didn't know anything about. We're all smart. We can all learn. So instead of backing away from the difficult case because you think you don't know enough, take it as an opportunity to learn the field. One nice thing about law is we can learn so many things and practice in so many different areas. As a trial lawyer, every case was new and in a different field often. And we can just learn it and use our skills to help our clients. See, by viewing difficult situations as opportunities for growth rather than a threat, you reduce the fear associated with them. And that mindset helps you to learn and grow and have more confidence, believe in yourself more. Another example would be to reframe a mistake as a step towards success. I don't know about you, but I could really beat myself up about my mistakes. I could accept mistakes in my partners. I could accept mistakes in my associates, but I couldn't accept mistakes in myself. And I've learned to overcome that. Making a mistake on this motion will show I'm incompetent. Instead, think mistakes are part of the learning process. Each error I make helps me improve and become a better lawyer. That's where experience plays out. In the first year as a lawyer, you make a good number of mistakes. The second year, you make less because you've learned from all those mistakes you made. And boy, in 45 years, I've made a whole lot of mistakes. I've probably made every mistake you could make, but I've learned from all of them. And that's why I love coaching lawyers now, because I can help share what I've learned to help them either not make the mistake or see what they can learn from it. Now my reframe thought is mistakes are part of my learning process. Every error I make helps me improve and become a better lawyer. See, that perspective helps you mitigate the fear of making mistakes by viewing them as steps towards improvement. It fosters a growth mindset where setbacks are an integral part of our success. Another one is enhancing self-belief through positive self-talk. So you might think, I can't handle the pressure of this high-stakes case. But look at it differently. Think this instead. I've handled challenging cases before and succeeded. I have the skills and experience to manage this one as well. See, positive self-talk reinforces your belief in your abilities. You counter fear with confidence, and that boost will help improve your performance and reduce your anxiety. Another one is you can reduce fear by focusing on what you control. Your original thought is there are just so many variables, so many uncertainties in this case. I just can't control this case. Another thought instead would be, I can't control everything, but what I can control is my preparation and response. And focusing on what I can manage will help me perform my best. See, by concentrating on what you can control rather than focusing on what you can't, you shift from a feeling of being helpless to empowered. And that will reduce fear by fostering a sense of power and motivation and being prepared. And this is one of the most important, using visualization to create positive outcomes. You might think, I'm afraid this trial will go badly. Boy, how often did I think that early in my career? Instead, think, I can visualize a successful result. By preparing thoroughly and anticipating challenges, I can steer this case towards a positive outcome. Don't let yourself think those negative thoughts. Visualize a positive thought. And I've used this analogy before, but many of you know I'm an avid golfer. And if you watch golf on TV, you see professional golfers visualize all the time. Before they hit the ball, they'll step back, close their eyes, and they're visualizing a successful shot. And I know when I'm hitting that shot over the wood or onto the green, if I think I'm afraid I'm going to hit it in the water, I'm likely to do that, or at least more likely to do that. But if instead I think I can see this ball up on the green next to the pin, I'm more likely to have a good shot. See, what you visualize really makes a difference in your outcome. Visualization techniques help you create a mental image of success. That'll reduce your fear, increase your confidence, and most importantly, improve your performance. See, these are just some examples of cognitive reframing, and they allow you to reinterpret fear-inducing situations in a way that diminishes their negative impact and enhances your ability to respond constructively. By changing your perspective, you can transform fear from a paralyzing force into a motivating and empowering tool. That shift not only improves your emotional resilience, but also leads to better decision-making, performance, and overall well-being in your legal career. So that's great, Gary. That's wonderful to know how to reframe, but I get really stuck in my fear. What are the steps I can follow to cultivate a habit of reframing thoughts? You know, we talked about the gifts of reframing. They really are endless, but how do you actually move from negative thinking to reframe thoughts that serve you better? Here are the steps. The first is, and really the most important, is to practice self-awareness. Check in with your thoughts and your emotions throughout the day. Notice when you start to feel anxious, stressed, or negative. Set aside a few minutes each day for mindfulness or meditation to really become aware of your internal dialogue. You know, so many times we think these negative feelings, but we're not aware of them. We just live in them, and they create their own negativity. 2, once you've become self-aware and you've reflected on yourself, identify any negative thought patterns. Pay attention to recurring negative thoughts, such as catastrophizing, black and white thinking, perfectionism, self-doubt, any of those. Keep a journal to track those thoughts and identify patterns that need to be reframed. 3, challenge your negative thoughts. Question the validity of your negative thoughts by asking yourself if they're based on facts or irrational beliefs. So if I think, if I lose this case, my career is over, step back and say, you know, is that thought really true? What evidence supports it? What contradicts it? Evaluate that thought critically. 4, then replace your negative thoughts with positive ones. Now, some things are more negative than others. Some things are really powerfully bad, but you can always create some positive thought about each and every one of them. And if you are struggling with any of these, please reach out to me. We can talk about what negative thoughts you have and how to replace them. But develop the habit of consciously replacing those negative thoughts with more balanced and more positive ones. Create a list of positive affirmations or constructive thoughts to counteract specific negative thoughts you frequently experience. So in other words, when you have that negative thought and you replace it with a more positive one, write it down. Write down that positive thought, that reframed belief, because you'll be able to use it again. These patterns keep happening, and writing down those reframed thoughts will really help you be able to recollect how to handle that next negative thought you face. Then 5, use visualization techniques. Visualize a positive outcome and a scenario. Instead of dwelling on potential failures or negative situations, see that call with your client going well. See you having a successful meeting with your managing partner. See that jury returning a verdict in your favor, whatever it might be. Spend a few minutes each day imagining yourself handling challenging situations. 6, focus on what you can control. All too often, we focus on the things we have no power over, the things we can't control. Instead, shift your things from things you cannot control to those you can influence. So in your trial, you can't control the outcome. You can't control what the other lawyer's going to do. But you can prepare your case. You can write down your examinations. You can think of all the arguments the other attorney might make. You can prepare your opening and your closing. Those are things you can control. Those are things you can influence. So focus on what you can control and put your energy in those areas. 7, learn from setbacks. Setbacks happen. None of us are perfect. Things go well, things go poorly. But view those setbacks as opportunities to learn and grow, rather than as a reflection on your capability. If you lose a case, think about what you might have been able to do differently, what you can do better next time, what you can learn from that. Don't see yourself as a bad lawyer because you lost a case. After experiencing that setback, take time to reflect on what you can learn from the situation and how it can help you improve in the future. And 8, use positive self-talk. So many of us, boy, I still do today. My self-talk is just terrible sometimes. And I have to replace that self-critical talk with more encouraging and supportive language. We so often, when our child makes a mistake, we're so kind and thoughtful. If our spouse does something wrong, we're quick to forgive. But when it comes to us, we're so hard on ourselves. So when you catch yourself thinking negatively about yourself, rephrase that thought in a more positive statement. So these is how you can do it. And it is a process. Trust me, you aren't going to do this correctly overnight. It takes time. It takes work. It takes self-awareness. It takes thought. But this is how you can develop a habit of cultivating a system, a process where you regularly reframe your thoughts. The first is to practice self-awareness. Identify the negative thought patterns you have. Challenge those negative thoughts. Then replace those negative thoughts with more positive ones. Visualize yourself succeeding and winning. Focus on what you can control and stop thinking about those things you can't. When you have a setback, learn from it and use positive self-talk. In the demanding world of law, the ability to reframe your thoughts is not just a valuable skill. It's truly a transformative practice that can redefine your entire career. By changing how you perceive and respond to fear, you empower yourself to face challenges with greater confidence, resilience, and a more positive mindset. Embrace the power of reframing to unlock your full potential, turning obstacles into opportunities and setbacks into stepping stones towards success. Remember, the journey to mastering your mind is ongoing, and every step you take towards reframing your thoughts brings you closer to a more fulfilling and impactful legal career. So start today and watch as the fog of fear dissipates, revealing a path for you of clarity, of growth, of unwavering confidence. And I know that this really isn't easy, reframing, and it's not part of our pattern. We tend to beat ourselves up when we have setbacks, when we have things we're worried about, but it really, really works. And if I can ever help you with it, please let me know. You can reach out to me at Gary@GaryMiles.net, and you can set up a courtesy call. Be happy to talk to you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Free Lawyer. If you have any topics you would like me to address in future episodes, please reach out to me again at Gary@GaryMiles.net, and I'd be happy to consider having them as the next topic. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, please be well, be safe, and be free.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Free Lawyer Podcast. Wherever you are listening, if you enjoyed what I shared, please leave me a rating and review. I would appreciate hearing more about what you like best and what topics you might like me to cover in future episodes. If you are interested in experiencing a more fulfilling and a more successful life, please contact me at www.GaryMiles.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me so I can learn more about you, your challenges, and your dreams. I appreciate each and every one of you, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks to all of you for your support.